I got a question for you guys. I think this will help round us out before.
Is this the start of the podcast?
No, I think this. I had this thought. You boob or butt guys?
Boobs.
Boobs.
Both. Depends on the day.
Would you lean more towards butt guy?
No.
Would you ever let your significant other put something in your butt?
No.
All right, then you're not much of a butt guy. Hello, and welcome to, for some reason, another episode of the Roundabout Podcast. This is episode 19. I am your host, Austin Sudduth, and with me, as always, I have Michael Levine. With me, sometimes I have Hunter Brittle, and with me, as he pleases, Baloney Boy himself, Tyler McClellan. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Oh, I'm good.
I'm doing all right. Thank you for
Good.
asking.
I'm glad
Still
y'all are here.
regretting mentioning the Baloney Boy thing, but you know.
It will haunt you as long as I live.
He will ensure of it.
I have a question, or actually I got a story for you guys with a question attached. Actually, no, I'm going to ask the question first. I changed my mind. Have you ever said something that in any other place would be fine, but just where you are at that moment was kind of iffy?
Oh, man.
Probably, I'm sure. I try
Yeah.
to repress
Guarantee I
those.
have.
I try to repress those memories as much as I can. So if you're asking if I'm going to be able to recall something like that, I don't know, bud.
I had one on Friday. So for background, for me, I work at a hospice care facility. I do not work in the medical side whatsoever. I work on the foundation side. So it's all donors and the fluffy end of hospice where everyone's happy with you for taking care of their loved ones and they want to give us money, right? And one of the things we do is a brick ceremony. And with that brick ceremony, people buy bricks, they engrave it with stuff about their family. Typically, it's like in memory of so-and-so, they were born this day, died this day, or have a fun little quote to it. And twice a year, we do a ceremony around those bricks where we dedicate them to those people. Their families come. This nice, tearful moment. We have the bricks in the ground and they get to look at the brick that they ordered for their loved one. It's all a way for us to raise money to continue doing what we're doing, but it's a nice sentiment for them. And Friday, it was the first time it has rained in Texas in like over a month. And so people are calling, be like, hey, is it still on? You know, hey, I actually forgot to RSVP. Is it okay if I still come? Stuff like that. Call this one lady back and she was like, yeah, I was wondering if it was still going on because it's raining. And I was like, oh yeah, rain's already cleared up. It's going to be another 2 hours till the ceremony. So it's going to dry out a little bit. We'll be great. We're going to be fine. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. I can't wait to be there. And I said instinctually, you know, I can't wait to see you here, or we'll see you soon. Something to that effect. And then I had to sit there and pause. I'll be like, I just told someone I was excited they are coming to a hospice care facility.
Yeah.
Like something about that, just like it.
That's a
I
bad
sat there
read,
for a
man.
second to be like, I didn't mean it that way. And she was just like, I understand. And I was like, okay, thank you. But yeah, that was my thing that I had happen to me 2 days ago.
I will say, I think just from hearing it, I think it was more. I think you're the only one that heard it as bad as you think they did.
Oh, I guarantee it. But at the
But
same
yeah.
time,
I mean, that's that thing. That's that most of the time, though, right?
Very
It's like,
true, yeah.
You're always going to be in your own head about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have
she-
to assume
she
worst
saw it
case
as
scenario
something
with
sweet.
stuff like that.
Thinking about it in the shower 2 days later, like, dang it.
I brought it up on the podcast. So
Yeah, valid.
but yeah, I was just wondering, have any of you ever had that moment where you said something that if you would have said that in any other situation, it would have been completely fine. And here I just told someone I'm happy that they're going to be on our service and dying soon.
I'm sure, like Brittle said, I'm sure there's 100 examples of it in the last 2 months alone. I just cannot think of a single one right
That's fair.
I'm prior military, so I'm sure there's plenty of things that I've said that are not appropriate in certain instances, but would be appropriate in others. But I'm really having a hard time coming up with something right now. I mean, we've all done the thing where you're at a restaurant and the waiter or waitress brings you your food and then says, enjoy your food. And you're like, thanks, you too. and then you
The
just get to sit
worst.
there with the the effect of the loading bubble on your forehead for a little bit while you're like, did I
Yeah.
really just say that?
I do that all the time.
And you know they get it like 30 times a day, but in your head, you are the only person in the history of mankind who has ever done something so stupid.
Yes, and you will now be clowned on that for the rest of your life.
I just expect so much better out of myself. And then I do something like that, and I'm like, what is wrong with me?
I have let my entire lineage down.
Have you
Yeah.
ever done this one? I almost had this one happen to me, and I stopped myself. So I work there. I also do some side stuff for my wife's business. I'm kind of just behind the scenes administrative work just to help her not have to get bogged down with everything because she runs her own business. And so there's just things that I know how to do because I did it running a business for years. That it's just like I can do these things in a tenth of the time that she could do it, and I can help her with it. And so I'll call her every now and then and be like, asking her about something about her business. And of course, it's my wife. So every time I get off the phone with her, it's bye, I love you. Have you ever almost told someone at your job getting off the phone, bye, I love you? Because I
Oh, yeah.
almost did that the other day.
Oh yeah, multiple times. It's
I
a problem.
think
actually,
I did that to Brittle one time.
You probably did. Actually, was this in
Do you
Charlotte?
not love Brittle?
Well, no.
I mean, I do, but I think I did that to Brittle one time.
I tell my best friend I love him all the time.
Yeah. I assume
Yeah.
it's me. I tell
Okay.
you.
Well, that makes me think of a whole nother thing. Have you ever met a family that just doesn't, or like, let alone saying I love you when they get off the phone? That's weird enough to me because I do that with everybody, like in my family, right? Have you ever met somebody who doesn't even say bye?
Oh yeah.
My
Yes.
child.
That isn't a grown adult that doesn't do it. Someone that knows the standards of a phone call conversation.
Right, and then you're just
That
talking,
is-
and then it's all right. You just say all right, click. What? The,
Yeah, that
you
makes me
just-
so uncomfortable. Like, what did I do wrong?
right. What did I do to deserve this?
My granddad was like halfway there. Like he would say bye, but he wouldn't give you time to say bye back.
Yeah, just bye, boom, you're done.
Yeah. He'd be like, bye, I love you. And I'm like, all right, I love you. Oh, he's already gone.
You're
Yeah.
gone. Yeah, that's such a bizarre thing to me.
Yeah, but I mean, back to the original question of like telling somebody that you probably shouldn't, you love them on accident. I got one better than that. So, you know, I mean, I'm quite attracted to my wife. I pinch her butt a lot. One time we
Butt
were
guy,
on, I mean, it's, you know, when she walks by, it's just there. One time we were on a catamaran cruise and my granddad had chartered it. It was just our family and then the captain and his wife who was, you know, first mate and chef. And we're sitting at the back of the boat, just hanging out. My wife, you know, she'd been sitting next to me. She got up, she went inside the cabin for something. I wasn't really paying attention. I don't remember if I was playing on my phone or looking through. I think we just got out of the water, so I may have been looking through the GoPro. It wasn't paying attention. And next thing I know, I thought it was her walking back by me. So without looking up, I just reach up and pinch her butt. And then in that moment, I realized it wasn't. It was the captain's wife.
Attaboy.
And yeah, that was a funny moment. Thankfully, she was super cool about it. He was super cool about it. He laughed probably the hardest. I was massively embarrassed. Turns out my wife had been back up for a while and had been sitting there. She thankfully also laughed about it and thought it was funny, but then told me that's what I get for touching her butt so much, that I get to be embarrassed about it. So yeah, that was that's probably my one up on that one is in front of everybody, just thought it was my wife and totally pinched somebody else's wife's butt.
That's one of those ones where you're laying in bed at night, and then you just it hits, and then you just then you just start making the face of like you just like you're hearing nails on a chalkboard, but there's no sound. It's just all in your brain, and you're just
Yep.
ah!
Still haunts me to this day. Yeah.
You managed
Yep.
to get first, second, and third hand embarrassment all on your own action.
Basically. Yeah, basically. It was boy, it was something else.
It's like a real life recurring nightmare.
Yeah. The only example of anything of that nature, and I for some reason, I probably don't remember it near as clearly as I feel like I do. But I remember there was definitely one time when I was very young and ran up to the wrong woman in Walmart and like grabbed onto her leg, and it was not my mom. That one for some reason still sticks out.
I had one very similar to that, but it was my brother, and we were in Best Buy, and I was probably like 6, 7 years old, and he was last I saw him, he was playing the free game display, whatever was there at the time. I don't remember, and so he was playing that, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna run around and look at other stuff, and then I found my mom, and she was like, hey, go get your brother. And I was like, all right. So I run back over there, and there is a dude in like the exact same color hoodie, exact same kind of pants that my brother was in with like his hood up at the game station. I was like, Ryan, come here. And the dude turned around and whipped at me. And I was like, I don't know you. And then I was like, just like ran off.
Ryan, you've changed.
What'd you do with my brother?
That's the kind of thing you'll carry with you for the rest of your life and have to unpack with a therapist someday.
You know, I'm going to be honest. People blame Amazon and online shopping for the downfall of stores. No, the day they removed the TVs on top of the game cases with a controller you could play was the day the downfall of like in-person stores started. What a
I
travesty.
disagree because the Best Buy at my town still has it, and no one is ever in that Best Buy.
Well, the Best
going to
Buy
your
in
Best
your
Buy.
town is still in 2003.
Yeah,
What a cool
I
Best
think
Buy.
they do the Nintendo Switches. You have like a little display one there that you can play.
That's pretty cool. Michael, going back to your story, I think we have the perfect name for this episode already, though. Michael touched the butt. Because you were already on a boat.
Ooh.
I
Now why
like
don't we
it.
just put that with a banner everywhere?
Well, I mean, you can just put the little Nemo boat. People will get it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's gonna be our thumbnail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make a special thumbnail
A
for that one.
crude cover of Nemo with Michael's face on top.
Right. Tyler, a few weeks ago, you said you had something you wanted to talk about. Did we ever talk about that?
So I think if I remember correctly, I have plenty of things to talk about, but not most of them wouldn't be very entertaining. But what I think you're talking about, we were talking about video games, more specifically Assassin's Creed, and I know Brittle and Michael are already groaning because that's all I've talked about for the past 2 weeks, and it is Michael's fault. He is the one that suggested I play it. I have been fully engrossed in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. In doing so, though, I found that apparently a lot of, and again, it may be that it sounds like it's more than actually is, but apparently a lot of people do not like Odyssey. And I think it's more than Odyssey. It's any of the newer ones that take that more open world concept. But in looking deeper into it, a lot of what it is the combat, I think. Because Assassin's Creed early on, I don't know how many of you have actually played them, but they were basically 2-button. You could stand in the middle of a town square and kill as many enemies that would come at you, right? Stand there, wait for them, attack, and counter. Versus this game, it is, I mean, it's combat, right? You have to actually think through things. Sometimes you're swamped, and sometimes you'll sit there and fight one enemy for 4 or 5 minutes just trying to wear them down. So to me, though, I have really enjoyed it. I haven't played an Assassin's Creed like this in a long time, but I think the question that came up with it is, at what point does and obviously this varies depending on the title, but at what point does a franchise, whether honestly, and you could ask the same thing about movies, games, anything, but at what point does it have to change, right? And can you ever, as a video game, especially a successful one early on, change without pissing off your core audience?
I say game 4. I feel like a good trilogy to a game with the same style, just, a little bit new environment, little new gameplay mechanic, just added on to the base of the first is good up to 3 games. I think at game 4, you kind of have to start changing the game in a semi-big way that propels it into something else. And the best example I actually have talking about recent games is Borderlands. Borderlands is one of my favorite franchises. It is probably in my top 3 of all franchises ever. And Borderlands 2 by far one of my top 3 games. But when I heard they were doing Borderlands 4, I was kind of hesitant, be like, do I want to go through the same thing I've already gone through 3 or 4 times now? I mean, they had a little bit with the spin-off with the Tiny Tina's Wonderland that was different, but it was still Borderlands. And Borderlands 4 opened it up that it is open world. There is no, you have to go on the train tracks towards this objective. You can just go off and do whatever you want. And they did it so well that I am enjoying this game more than I have the previous 2 or 3 releases that they had. But still, I mean, Borderlands 2 has that place in my heart. But I think at Game 4 major title, you have to make a change, because I think at 4 games doing the same thing over and over again, people are going to get tired of it.
I think it's a dangerous game, though, because I think you look at somebody like Mass Effect. They had something really great going, and then they put out Game 4, and it tanked the franchise. So I think you got to be really careful with what you change and don't change. I mean, it's one of those things, you have to read the room. You have to read your audience and understand what they're wanting. Because Andromeda wasn't it. I think most, if not all, Mass Effect fans will say, like, yes, you want them to keep iterating, because that's one thing Mass Effect did very well, was iterate from game 1 to game 3 in a way that made it less grindy. Like they removed the pain points and highlighted the best bits. And then game 4 went back to a lot of those pain points. So I think you got to be careful. I mean, I think, you just got to read the room, right? I mean, I think there are other games that did it well. Like you look at the Halo franchise, technically ODST was the 4th game. I think that, mixed reviews. There's people who love ODST. I'm one of them. I think it's a really fun iteration of the franchise. There's people who hated it. If you don't want to count that, if you want to count that as 3.5, which is kind of what it is, Reach was game 4, and that was a phenomenal game. I think Reach may have been one of their strongest entries, probably, in my opinion, behind Halo 3. So I think it's just, you got to be so careful when you start changing and mixing. Personally, when it comes to Assassin's Creed, I actually like the change in gameplay, but it did, it was definitely a dangerous move in keeping, changing the gameplay within the franchise. Like that they made it like almost an entirely different genre, right? That's a dangerous move. I personally was in favor of it, but I know not everybody was.
That's kind of what I was about to get at, is I think it also depends on the game, obviously, right? But in this, when you're talking about Assassin's Creed, another big franchise that I've played a ton of their games is Total War. In the grand scheme of things, Total War, they're all the same game, but they're set in different periods, so you have different types of character, stuff like that. I think you could almost make the same argument for Assassin's Creed, right? It's all a period thing. They're like, obviously Odyssey is ancient Greece, Peloponnesian War. They have a Shogun era Japan based one. They have a Viking era Norway based one, but I guess that one goes onto the coast of England and all that. But with those, at some point you can't keep making the same game, because you'll have your core base of people that played the original Assassin's Creed, and I think this was part of the conversation we had, Austin, is that a lot of the people, it's most likely a loud minority, and what they want is that original game to be made again, because they remember it so fondly. But I remember playing those games, the original ones, and they were awesome when you first get on, and it was super cool to see all the takedown animations and all the things you could climb and explore. For me, after like 2 hours of those, I was bored out of my mind, because I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over and over again. This game has not given me that. And I guess you could argue that it's because of the open world, and if you get tired of doing something in one area, you can go explore somewhere else. But I feel like, again, you pick your poison, right? You keep making the same game. In the case that you used, Austin, you keep making the same game, and you keep your core base happy. Eventually, they're going to age out. And in this situation, you've got 2 different audiences. You've got, for me, like, I feel like I'm a good example of when it does work. I got bored by the original Assassin's Creed games. I pick this one up and am hooked, right? And I will definitely go play another one after this that has the same sort of style. I don't know that I'll go back and play Assassin's Creed 1 or 2 again. So now you are probably exactly what they're hoping. You are an original fan who also loved the adaptation they made. You loved the new style they went for, and you still play it, right? I would bet there's not a lot of you out there in that sense. Similar with
Well,
Assassin's Creed.
I think the way, so going back to like the Mass Effect and Halo, I think what Halo did right is because both of them really kind of did the same thing. They branched off of their main game because Andromeda isn't Mass Effect 4 Andromeda, it's Mass Effect Andromeda. It's its own side thing. Same thing, technically, Halo Reach is its own story that, you can get into the big Halo universe and where it actually falls in the timeline, but it's not Halo 4. And what they did for me in ODST and Reach is they implemented new mechanics that weren't in the game before that worked. Whereas I never played Andromeda, but from what I have heard is that it's more they tried something that was out of the scope of what the main game felt like. Am I wrong or
Yeah, I
am I
mean,
correct with that?
the problem, in my opinion, the problem is that they went back to what the problems were with the first game. The first game, it was very inventory management kind of thing. Like you pick up a new weapon and you immediately are like analyzing stats. Is this better than the old one? And like you're constantly changing out weapons and stuff. And with 2 and 3, they kind of minimalize that, right? Like you didn't have, the Avenger Mark 1 and the Avenger Mark 2 and the Avenger Mark 3 and it like you upgraded them yourselves, but you didn't just find them in the wild and you aren't constantly juggling this game of like, you know, constantly needing to check your inventory and equip better stuff. They moved away from that. And then with Andromeda, they went back to that again, but on an even bigger scale because, also, you kind of have to do that with your class build as well. Like you were, like, I feel like it just went back to I'm spending more time in the menu than actually running missions. And then, the other part of it is one of the other things that people really didn't enjoy about the first and even the second Mass Effect was like the driving over landscapes,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And you just yeah, right? Like especially 1 was bad about it. 2 was better. 3, you didn't even have to do that to get resources. Like you just scanned from space. It was great. Like it was a logical progression in the sense of like technology, right? I mean, they didn't explain it this way, but it kind of made sense. The first level, you're having to literally drive up to the thing to mine it. The second one, you just kind of have to get in the area on the same planet, whatever. The third one, you do everything from space.
Right.
Like you never actually have to land to do resources. And they went open world, but then it was also still very drivey. And I think that's just what like people liked the open world in the sense that you could go anywhere in the universe at any given time. For the most part within Mass Effect and the places you couldn't, it was explained by the story. Like, hey, this area is locked because it's, barricaded by the Reapers or whatever, right? Like it made sense if there were areas you couldn't go, but you could go anywhere within space. But once you landed on a planet, it wasn't like you could go anywhere on the planet. So it did keep the game feeling like you could go anywhere, but it's efficient, it's streamlined. Um, that's not the case with Andromeda. Like you just end up driving and driving and driving. And it's not even fun driving like, oh, hey, there's a thing to fight. And then, oh, there's a thing to fight over there. Like you just it's like Euro Truck Simulator, but in space, It just was like it just got it got grindy and boring of like, I'm not fighting things. And then I fight something and I get a new gun and now I gotta sit in the menus and equip the new gun and I need to check my build and did I unlock a new class point and like it just they made it too branching and it just kind of killed the momentum of the game. That was my feeling on it. There may have been people out there who loved that idea that you could build the exact shepherd you wanted. But to me, like if I picked the soul like to me, that was part of the game. Am I going to pick the soldier shepherd or the adept or one of the hybrid classes? But even if I picked a hybrid class, it was on rails. Like, I had a very small tech tree to choose from. Andromeda wasn't that. Like, you just branched off and branched off and branched off, and it just was too much, I think.
Well,
and that's, as a game designer, that's one of the things you have to keep in mind is, am I bogging the player down with choice instead of guiding them through choice?
so, and I think you just kind of said the buzzword there of grindy. Some people like that. I feel like most people do not. Maybe not most,
Well, and
but
I think, yes, I 100% agree with you. I think it is very hit or miss kind of thing. And adding it into a franchise that you've already been pulling the grindy bits out of because your fan base complained.
Yeah.
And then dumping a ton of it and even more back in.
that's
It's missing your audience. It's
Well,
missing your audience.
And I think that's a big thing is there's got to be a balance there. And that's, again, I think that's why I've enjoyed Assassin's Creed so much. Okay, take the Elder Scrolls games, for example. Oblivion. Oblivion was a fun game. I felt like I beat the main quest line way too easily. Like, when I say it was genuinely like less than 10 hours, if that, and I had the main quest line done to the point where I finished it and was like, that was it. That's all there was to it. Now, again, some people are going to find that and they're going to say, oh, great, I have a million other side quests. You could dump 300 hours into that game. Me, I feel like I've already done the thing, though. I feel like I'm done now. Skyrim, the next game, was the polar opposite. It felt like you had to put in an ungodly amount of effort doing random stuff just to progress the main storyline forward. That's where I feel like this Odyssey specifically has done well. It's like, sure, I haven't been able to just streamline the main quest line. I've had to go out and explore, and they do a good job of making you sometimes explore an area to find the next portion, or doing one random little side quest will open up a whole nother, what they call your Odyssey, a whole nother Odyssey line that you wouldn't have done that little quest, you would have never really found, or you may have eventually, the game may have had a backdoor to it or something later on. But I feel like there's got to be a balance there. And again, it was just bizarre to me, and where this whole thing came from, because that was what sold me, was the combat. It was most of the time with the normal just ads, the basic enemies, I can run around and one hit Y, assassinate them, push them off a cliff, be done. Occasionally it would take a fight, a small fight, quick, easy. But then you run into these named characters, you run into these mercenaries or hallmarks of the forts, and you actually feel like you have to earn it to beat them. Now, granted, I am playing on not the hardest difficulty, but the one below it, not normal. I think it's hard instead of normal, but so maybe that's changed the way the game is played for me a little bit. But to me, like I said, it just surprised me to hear how many people didn't like it because of that. But that brings, and we were talking about the whole, you gave an example of it going of, I don't even remember the name of the game you said now, Austin, but of them going to open world. Where did that come from? At what point did all of these games start saying, you know what, open world, no other choice, open world is the move now? Is it the buzzword of saying, hey, open world, this is an open world game? Where did that come from?
I don't think there is a spot. I think what a game does, it really just depends on where their motivation to move forward is, because the buzzword for 10 years was Battle Royale. Everyone had a Battle Royale. Halo Infinite had speculation that it was going to release with a Battle Royale, and then it never did. So, I mean, open world has been a concept for decades in gaming, that it's not anything new.
I wouldn't say decades, but when
did Oblivion come out?
It might be decades. What was
It's
that?
been decades.
05?
I mean,
we're
think
old,
about,
man.
Dude, think about old point and click games. Old point and click games were truly the original open world, because there were so many games that there was no direction to go. You unlocked areas, and then you just have to wander around with input keys to figure out where to go. I can think of, is it King's Quest? King's Quest, you
Yeah, I
drop
was gonna
into
say
a
it.
world and you're just like, what now? There is no on-rail system. So
Yeah,
open world,
yeah. Some of those old like RPGs. You're right. They are kind of a little
Yeah.
more. I don't know. Yeah,
they're
open.
of the
I
time
guess.
open world, but yeah,
Yeah,
the
of the
open world has
time.
been
It's a little different
around
than what we do.
since
So-
gaming really has been here. It's just, what do we see open world as? Because I mean, Minecraft, one of the biggest games ever, is a true open world sandbox game. But when it came out, people weren't thinking I have to create a open world game to compete with Minecraft. It was, what sandbox game are we making?
Yeah,
So
no,
I
that's
mean,
fair.
it really just depends on who the developer is, what their goal is. I can see with like Assassin's Creed, it is a little bit kind of ingrained in them and it is still on rails, because it's like you start in one part of the city and you progress to the bigger part of the city, and then soon you can just go and explore all the city as you please. So I mean, it's semi open world already, but to me, like, open world truly is like you're dropped in a place and there are no limits. Like, there is no walls preventing you from going somewhere. It's, if I want to go and run my head into where the final boss would be, I could. He might not be there because I have to go through sequences, but I mean, I think of like Breath of the Wild was, it was so wild for Zelda to do that, because you dropped in as Link, and if you want to, you can just run up to the castle and try and fight Ganon. And people are like, I didn't think this was ever a thing, but you can.
Yeah, and so, but to your point, what you're saying, that is exactly what Odyssey, you can. You can hop on a boat from the beginning. Well, you have to get access to a boat. That takes a few, like, maybe 3 missions. But hop on a boat and literally sail to any part of the map, no questions asked. Now, are you going to get your ass handed to you when you get there? 100%. But same thing. Now, I will tell you, so Oblivion came out in 2006 originally. But this is interesting. Legend of Zelda 1986 version. I've never played any of the Zeldas. I don't know much about them. But is kind of awarded the first or original open world game.
Ooh,
Yeah, I
I
can
have
see that.
I have conflicting information.
What do you have?
Ultima 1 in 1981.
Oh wow. So, but not that much earlier. So, which I guess that was kind of also the dawn of video games in a way too. Obviously, you can go deeper than that, sure, but yeah. So,
Decades.
I think the term open world and sandbox gets misconstrued and mixed up a lot, because right now I think what you guys were talking about, the buzzword being open world, I think where that came from was the GTA 5 and Minecraft generation have now grown up and have their own money now, because Lord knows it's been so long with just GTA 5 that, I mean, everybody who played that as kids, not condoning playing Grand Theft Auto as a child, but everybody who's done that now, they recognize that term, and I think that's more of a marketing thing than anything.
Well,
so
yeah,
I think
it's just,
I think that sandbox and open world tend to get mixed up and used interchangeably when they really shouldn't be in today's gaming market.
I agree. And you do see a lot of franchises going to that more genuine open world style, right? And again, it all started with Assassin's Creed, this conversation. That's kind of a good example. Austin was spot on. In the older ones, you started in a small area and eventually gained access to different areas of a city or whatever. And that just continued to branch out. Versus some of the newer ones, again, Odyssey is the only one I really have to go off of. But it is truly open world in that sense. And then you look at games like, what's the Soulsborne game, Austin? That's the huge one, ginormous game.
Elden Ring,
yeah. You had all these Soulsborne games that were literally linear. Like, there was no question about it. You had to go through this certain path to get to the end of it. And then Elden Ring comes out. It's like, no, go take on any boss you want. Again, you're going to get your ass handed to you, but have fun. If you want to try it, do it. So, and I think that just kind of came with the capability of doing it on larger scales. that is a massive, massive game. Obviously, 20 years ago, it would have been virtually impossible to pull that off. At that scale, at least. So it's again, though, the whole conversation at the end of the day, and I think this is the challenge any video game franchise in history has struggled with, is how do we continue to make our game better without changing it so much that our audience doesn't. Mass Effect is a great example of how to do it wrong. You look at games like Destiny could literally be 10 games. With the amount of content they have, if they didn't want to do it the way they did with just DLC on top of DLC, if they made each one a different game, that could easily be a 10 to 15 game series. And I don't think anybody would question it. And I think people would still buy them and play them. So, and obviously that's a whole different conversation of why don't more games do it that way? Your Destiny's, Grand Theft Auto 5 is a good example. They just kept adding stuff. The map stayed the same, but they kept adding stuff. Obviously space makes it a little easier. You just add a planet onto the screen to be able to go to.
Yeah,
But-
supposedly even Destiny is hurting now. They
Oh yeah.
I guess we haven't played it. We fell off after the last, like, what do you want to call it? Main story DLC came out. We didn't play any of the new era, but I mean it sounds like major player exodus. Players aren't happy with it because they changed a significant amount of the gameplay.
So that makes me wonder because I feel like that's a pretty specific, well, maybe not specific audience, it's a wide-ranging audience, but what are those people going to? Is there a Destiny competitor out there right now?
Well, what did they change to get people to go away from? Because I didn't play Destiny 1, but obviously we played the hell out of Destiny 2. And it really all felt the same to me, except for the new stories. So what did they change? Somebody who's more got their ear to the ground than I do. What did they change to make people go away from that?
That is a great question because I haven't played it. I don't really know. I think they've changed the equipment system again and the light level system. I think the stories, it sounds like, are significantly weaker. They did strip the studio down a good bit. Sony did at one point. And I think that's starting to show its results also. But yeah, it just sounds like players are just disgruntled with it, that they made changes and it doesn't really feel like Destiny anymore. And so I don't know that they're, to answer your question, Tyler, I don't know that there is a like Destiny alternative per se. Not on that scale. I think they're just going other places, going to play other games.
Yeah, I think the thing for Destiny that they kind of shot themselves in the foot with was that last Dying Light. Was the last campaign that we played? That
Maybe.
it was, I think that's what it was called. But it put a bow on the story of Destiny. Like, it ended the storyline that has been Destiny 2 since the retcon of the beginning of Destiny 2. Because Destiny 2 released, they had one story, and then years later they were like, oh, by the way, we're retconning this, and you can't even access this content anymore, and it's a different thing, and they just reused the beginning of Destiny 1 as to explain why you're here, which that was a choice I don't agree with, but here we are. But the whole thing with the Witness and like the main bad guy that you've been after this whole time, you put a bow on it, you wrap it up. They even make like this sentimental, like you're on your ship with your ghost looking into the Wanderer, and you're happy, you're at peace. And it's like, okay, that's the end of the game for me. Like, you wrapped this game up. I have done the content. I am happy with this being put to bed now. Oh, by the way, we're going to continue the development of Destiny 2, and we're intentionally going in a completely different direction. To me,
The final shape was what it was.
Final shape. That's what it was.
Which, with
But
a name
it-
like that, how can you not have that be the wrap up? Like, that's just
Right.
You're
But that's what
putting
it
that
was.
out
It
there. You're
was.
manifesting that.
It was the wrap up, and that's when it wraps up and you start Destiny 3. Not what Destiny 3 could have been in Destiny 2.
Yeah, and I think that's the misstep, right? I mean, I think Austin's 100% right. I think if you take a year away, you make Destiny 3 or a couple of years even. But you leave the final shape as the finale. You go, you make another game, call it Destiny 3. Then I feel like you're a lot more free to change the gameplay. And, they talk about tech debt being a problem, which with an engine running that long totally happens, right? You acquire, tech debt and just parts of the engine that don't work the way you want to because it has to support old things, old DLC. And they're obviously not shy about archiving old DLC and making it not playable anymore in favor of new DLC. But, you know, take that time to, refresh your engine, go make Destiny 3, and then you have all, I think players would be more expectant of a shift in gameplay and gameplay style in a new edition versus just a DLC to your continued live service game.
Well,
Yeah.
and I did a quick search, and I don't know how reliable this is, but just of a few reasons players are unhappy with Destiny 2. Lack of new and engaging content, pretty generic. Poor new player experience, which goes exactly to what you're talking about, Michael, of the annual removal of old content. And it kind of makes it difficult for newer players to get into the whole story of it. Which I can see because I kind of found that when I played a little bit because I joined pretty late on into the Destiny 2 days. And then controversial monetization were the three big ones, apparently. I didn't know they had a big thing with basically pay to win type stuff, but apparently, I guess they made earnable armor sets into paid armor sets. I didn't know that was a thing, but yeah, and again, and I think, like you say, at some point, and I think you are seeing it right now with games like CSGO and stuff like that, trying to kind of brand into these new games, even though it's the same thing. At some point, that model of this game, we're just going to keep adding DLC, and it's great because you don't have to buy a new game. At some point, you've got to finish the story, and it sounds like they did, but they just made the mistake of trying to bleed more out of it. So
it's that old famous
they-
political cartoon of whatever guy walking up to the cow that's just milked dry to skin and bone, and it's good morning sunshine. It's like, we're back. It's like you're just trying too hard to keep this alive.
Well, and I think the thing, so you brought up like CSGO, the thing that they did well is their engine was old. They kept the same base game, and based on the type of game that it is, I think going to the CS2 model was good. Update the engine, keep the base mechanics. That way people are still playing the game they want to play, but it just looks a little bit crisper, a little bit nicer. Because I remember when CS2 first launched, I played it and I was like, oh, this is janky. Like they've got to work this out, but it's Valve. They're going to give it the attention it needs. And they did, and it ended up working out well that people are like, okay, it's back to what it should be as Counter-Strike. And other examples like Dota did Dota 2, a game that I have more time in, and I don't think I will ever put more time in my entire life into any other game, is League of Legends. League of Legends has had the same name since its inception, but they have gone through about 2, I think, just reworks of the game to bring it up to more modern day look, modern day feel, but keeping that same base game. But it only works because of the style of games that they are. Whereas Destiny 2 can't keep that up because of the style of game it is. It's kind of like WoW. WoW's been around forever, and they just keep updating it because that's what's going to make it work. But then people get hyped on the nostalgia when WoW Classic comes out, and they played it for maybe a year, and then they dropped it because it actually wasn't what they thought they wanted. It was just a nostalgia kick, and people loved it. And now people are like, oh, well, the new DLC of main WoW's here, so I'm just going to go play that now.
Well, except that WoW Classic is doing very well because they've now started re-releasing the DLC in order again.
Right.
So like they
Burning
released
Crusade's
Burning
gonna
Crusade
hit in the Lich King are going to just bring everyone back. But that's the thing. That's a smart play on Blizzard to do that, but it only lasts for so long. Whereas when WoW originally released and it was releasing stuff, it did so great up until Cataclysm, because Cataclysm had problems. But we can go to that somewhere else, another podcast. But they did what they needed to do for WoW, for League of Legends, to make that continue and keep that same name and keep that same gameplay style going. I see it. If CSGO kept that name and just updated the engine, I think it would have done fine. I kind of understand wanting to rename it and rebrand it. I get that, because you're actually trying to bring in more new players when you do that rather than keep old players in, which they needed to do, because it very much became like you were a CSGO player and you have been for 5 to 10 years, and that's what's their audience, and they needed fresher faces, and I think that worked for them, whereas League of Legends and WoW haven't really had that problem. So you have these games that have been around for so long, who they, at their core, they have the game that they need, whereas Destiny 2, they had that core game and then they stripped it. That core thing that was Destiny 2 got stripped for a new adventure into what Destiny 2 could have been, and that needed to be Destiny 3. Because, Mike, I know you played Destiny 2 when it first launched with me. It was a completely unknown thing what we were getting into from Destiny 1. Like, everything we knew about Destiny 1 was getting rewritten. It was part of the story, and it made sense.
Yes.
Whereas now everything's getting rewritten and reintroduced, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, and there's no way to go back and find the stuff either. Like I said, that's when it comes to either, games like Destiny or just the content we make. I don't like things that are part of the story or the history of it becoming unavailable, right?
Right. Tyler will always be Baloney Boy, and that will not change.
I mean, like, obviously we've, rebooted Roundabout Gaming a number of times, with the most recent iteration being the four of us and Shane. And, I try not to go back and remove any of the old content, though. You want to go back 10 years and see some of the original really bad podcasts that myself, Dano, and Red did, you can find them. I haven't hid them. They still exist. That's part of our history. It's part of who we were 10 years ago, 9 years ago, making a podcast. Had no idea what we were doing. Especially from a technical standpoint. It's going to sound awful, and I'm going to tell you that. But I still think people should be able to go find that history of us. There's very little we've ever removed. And some of the stuff we can't find is because I lost, our first year of Extra Life. I just don't have that anymore. The file corrupted. It corrupted on YouTube. The local recording corrupted. I just, I don't have it. And it drives me insane that there's content that's important to the lore of us that just can't be found. And I think for me, that turned me off from Destiny for a while when they completely changed the game, retconned a bunch of stuff out of it. They kind of mention it still. Like, they still kind of mention the farm. You can still go back to the farm, but you can't experience it again. And, to me, even when I did come back to Destiny after, I think I took 3 or 4 years off, I wanted to start fresh and start from the beginning with a new character. And then I realized it was different, and I put it back down. And it was another couple of years until I picked it up again.
Yeah, I said the big thing, and not to just brag on Destiny too much, but Destiny 2, for those who didn't play it, it starts with the Traveler. I called him the Wanderer earlier, and I'm sorry about that. The Traveler.
I was very concerned, but I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, the Traveler. It's been a while since I played the game. The Traveler gets hurt by a Cabal force, and it actually, you lose all of your powers, and then you are powerless, wandering around on Earth until you find a sliver of the Traveler, and then you get your powers back, and you have to like regrow your powers from finding these shards of basically your god, and then you go rescue him, and then you're full powered again. And that was the point of Destiny 2, is finally there was something that could threaten this thing that people praise as a god, and now you realize that it is vulnerable, it is weak, and that is all Destiny 2 is one threat to the Traveler after another till you find the big bad guy who is the antithesis of the Traveler, and he is now coming for the Traveler. And that carried for like 5 years of story development. And so you're just like, okay, this is all great, but probably what, 3 years into Destiny 2, they completely close off how the start of Destiny 2 is. It's not a part of the game. You can't play that content. It's gone. And how it starts, if you're a new player coming into it, it is a carbon copy of how you started in Destiny 1. Like, exact same sequence, exact same storytelling. And it's just like, why? Like, you put all the effort into it. So, I mean, I don't know. That's, like I said, I'll get off my high horse about Destiny 2. They retcon too many things in it, and now they're retconning how the game plays in general. And so now I'm just like, all right, I'm done with it. You should have said this was Destiny 3, and I would have hopped on board and expected something new because it's a new game, but you're using an older engine and something that held a dear place in a lot of people's heart because they love the story of Destiny. And now you're just like, all right, well, we're going to start over again, and best of luck.
I would, it's funny now that we've had this conversation. I would love to pick my uncle's brain on this because he is and probably still is. I don't know. He was a Destiny diehard. I would bet he has some very strong opinions on this. But other than maybe Destiny, just because it's such a unique game and how it went about what it did, right? With these just insane expansion on expansion on expansion to the point of getting rid of old stuff. For any game, you can give a good example and a bad example, right? We were talking about CS2. Rainbow Six Siege did a similar thing with Siege X, I think is what they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, it was a flop. People, now granted, that is one of the most toxic game communities I've ever been a part of. So I'm not surprised that they weren't happy with it. I don't think they're happy with much ever over there on the Rainbow Six side of things. But same exact thing. Right after CS2 did their thing, about 2 years later, maybe, Rainbow Six Siege is releasing this whole new thing of Siege X. Same thing where if you own the game, you still have it. Just change the engine, whatnot. But then you got games like StarCraft 2 that will never die. I don't think they've changed the engine. They make balancing changes here and there with certain units and stuff like that. But that game will never die. You can log on to StarCraft 2 at any given time and find a match. There will be somebody to play with. So, but for any example like this, you can give a game that did it right and a game that did it wrong. And they may have done the same exact thing. It just depends on their base. And that, at the end of the day, I think that's what it comes down to, is you've got to know your audience. Destiny 2, I think, always survived off of that core fan base. Now, it was a large core fan base because so many people enjoyed those games. But exactly what you're talking about, you remember so fondly the start of Destiny 2 and like the whole story of it. And they basically said, hey, that thing that got you hooked in this game originally, we just dumped it in the trash and screw you, right? So, and you were never going to end up with a happy audience after that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the difference largely comes from like what is your community and how you go about addressing it. Like I said, League of Legends in my heart is like, it's not really a top 5 game, but I played it more than any other game that I've ever played because it filled something for me, which was I needed a competitive game that I could grind, that I could get better at, and that would always be there. And that's what it was for like 12 years of my life. I played League of Legends and I loved it and it was great. And it took up a lot of my time. And when they started making the changes that needed to be made, they had their audience with them. Whereas things like CS2 wasn't about their core audience, it was about trying to expand their audience. And so I think that's where like this discussion really kind of comes in. Like, why are you making the change? Are you trying to bring in new players? Or are you trying to appease the old players? And there is a balance to it. Like, obviously, you don't want to change it so much that all the old players go, but like, how do we make it look new, make it look fresh, that a new audience can just pick it up? And I think CS2 actually did a good job of that. Obviously, changing engine and all of that, you're going to run into bugs. You're going to run into like things that need to be fixed that you're not going to catch in a quality test that only once you put it out to 1 million people, they're going to find it, and then you make the changes and you have to be on top of that. So they did a good job, but just to have the idea that Destiny 2 had of just like, let's just change it up. I mean, it's old, it's done, let's just change it up, and nobody wanted that. People would have been like, if you would have just stuck with the final shape and just kept introducing new concepts with it, your player base still would have been there because that's what they wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think again, it all comes down to knowing again what you're wanting. Do you want new people or not, or are you just trying to make the game better for? If you have a consistent community fan base that's going to keep playing the game, you just need to improve it for them. Total War, I brought them up earlier. They're ones that are going through the ringer right because basically they have been ostracizing both their core audience and these new people that they're trying to get, and it's not ending well for them, to the point where a lot of people are saying they're announcing a new game in December, to the point where if this is not a smash hit, they're probably going to be done, kind of thing, because they're one of those that they just want to put band-aids on stuff when people complain. They've basically negated, so Total War, if you don't know what it is, it's basically a turn-based strategy game, or a turn-based strategy game that also combines the element of real-time tactical battles. So you are turn-based on the map and moving your armies and stuff, but then if you run into another army and fight, you control your army in the battle, right? And they started with historical games, so they had Medieval and Shogun in Japan and all these other games, Rome, whatnot. But then they came out with Warhammer 3. Warhammer 3 was a big success, or Warhammer 1, 2, and 3. They were big successes. They haven't put out a good historical game since probably pre-2010. So they've almost just completely forgotten about that core audience. And the main reason being, on some of these games, these historical ones, you set it in a time frame, you've only got so much you can do. Versus the Warhammer universe, you can keep adding races and factions and portions of the map and all these different events and stuff. It's pretty clearly a money thing, right? At the end of the day, they're going for what game can we keep growing and making bigger and basically putting out DLC for people to buy, versus these historical games that are hitting a pretty niche audience. And I get it from a company business standpoint, but you can't throw your core audience or your core community under a rock and just forget about them, because they will be loud and people will notice. So, and again, that's one of those types of games that's already a pretty niche audience anyways, because not a lot of people want to play strategy type games. It's not the most common thing in the world for people to want to play. So, again, I think in the grand scheme of things, you can use any genre of game, any open world, any sandbox, any of it. And I think the big thing is you've got to listen to your audience. And we can sit here and name a million titles, but I think we'll come down to the same thing of, here's an example of somebody who did it right. Here's an example of somebody who did it wrong. And even though they took similar steps, they didn't read their audience. They didn't read their community and listen to what they had to say. And you have games that do well and you have games that fail.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, right? Like, I think there's definitely companies who read the room well, and there's companies that don't. And I mean, I think you would also be hard pressed to find a company who hasn't had a misstep at some point or another. For years, for me, that company was Bungie, of like, oh, these guys, everything they do is gold. But it's not. And actually, if you look in their history, they had a couple, failures before Halo. Halo came along, they did really well with that. A core group of that spun off into 343 when they moved off to become independent. Destiny obviously was a massive success until it hasn't been. And I don't think it's been a massive success in a while. I mean, I think even in the last few years, they've really been tailing off. I think, you know, I think they were the ones who made live service, I think, generally popular with Destiny. And a lot of people tried to chase that and were unsuccessful. But yeah, I mean, even 343 has stepped in it. And, you know, unfortunately, sounds like maybe continuing to, if you believe some of the reports that come out. Although we talk about that nostalgia feeling, and as of, you know, we're recording this on the 26th of October, they just announced that they are completely remastering the Halo 1 campaign again. But
For another time.
but I will say
They're gonna turn into Skyrim.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, baby.
Yeah, I
They're gonna
don't
turn
know.
into Skyrim with 6 releases of the same game.
But what's interesting, from what I understand, it's not just a graphical remaster. They're actually changing it in some ways. So again, could be one of those missteps, could be really good. You know, supposedly you'll be able to pick up the energy sword, which is something you couldn't do in the first Halo. So, you know, we'll see. I'll probably get it. I'm a Halo diehard. I love them. Even their weak games, to me, I still really enjoy. Infinite wasn't my most favorite thing, but it had its own charm, and Austin and I played every bit of that and had a blast with it. So
I loved Infinite.
I mean, there's a good possibility, as long as it's not totally broken, that we'll do a 4-person Let's Play in Halo Combat Evolved, because it will have 4-player co-op.
That was going to be my question, dude. If they can make Halo 1 4-person co-op, I'm already in. Like, you've got my money.
Yeah, supposedly it's going to be 2-player couch and 4-player online.
Heck yes.
So I could see us doing, some Let's Plays in it and just playing through the original new Halo.
Now give me
So, yeah, I mean,
Halo
I think every
2
game-
with 4-player co-op. That way we can do a Halo 1 through 5 lasso run.
Yeah. I know, we still got to get to that.
That's what I want. Because if they come out with Halo 1 4-player, they better as hell come out with Halo 2 4-player.
Maybe in another 10 years.
I don't care. I'll wait.
My problem is they remastered 1, they remastered 2, and now they're going back and redoing 1 again. It's like, give me the remaster of 3. That's
Right.
by far my favorite. Remaster 3.
Well, speaking of things we can't wait for, or we can wait for, we are just weeks away, less than a week and a half away from the release of this episode to our 2 weeks? 2 weeks away. Almost 2 weeks away. Less than 2 weeks away.
11 days.
I'm second
11
guessing
days.
myself.
Some time away.
It is less than 2 weeks away, and also not quite 2. All of those things I said were correct. But we have our 10th anniversary inaugural episode of Extra Life.
Most of those words were correct except inaugural. But yes, we do have our 10th.
I feel like we're
Anniversary
doing some
Extra
kind of
Life.
inaugural there, aren't we?
No, we're doing repeats of everything, baby. Everything we're doing is some sort of derivative of a challenge we've done over the last 10 years. This is our 10-year celebration of Extra Life streams that Roundabout Gaming has done. This is my 10th year, Austin's 9th.
This is my 10th. How dare you?
9th in person.
We have had this conversation. We have had this argument for 3 years. This is 10 years for me. I have been in an Extra Life stream every year for 10 years. I was there in 2021, not in person, but I was a part of it.
Yep, that's why I said 9th year in person.
I was there in person that summer.
Yep, you have been to
So,
all the summer streams. That is correct.
10 years in person.
Yeah.
I will
So
fight you.
yeah, we've got some fun stuff on the books. Brittle is going to try and take back his crown for the most paintballs.
It shall be mine.
150?
No.
I think what was it, 80?
No, it was 63. 63.
Oh,
I have
okay.
that number in my brain. We will be doing 63.
So somewhere between a week and 2 weeks in the past future, and Brittle is going to take somewhere between 80 to 120 paintballs.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been a week since we talked about it, and the number's already inflated. So we'll see what he gets to by the time Extra Life rolls around.
The
I'm
last
gonna
time we
update-
talked
keep it
about
grounded.
in the conversation, it kept inflating every new sentence.
I will
Yep,
keep
yep.
this grounded, dadgummit. You
Yeah,
guys
you're
are not pulling a fast one on me.
You're keeping it grounded, and yet I'm updating the number because you are still wrong.
Dang it.
63.
Ugh.
Was what it would have been before we added 20.
Austin's going to get his head shaved. I'm going to get my chest waxed. We're going to do some food challenges. Nick is going to go back in the ice bath. We've got some really good stuff. We also have some stuff you'll be able to get for donating. If you donate a cumulative $10, we'll have a drawstring bag with Extra Life logo on it. Cumulative $50 gets you a soccer jersey, and a cumulative $100 gets you a soccer scarf. And I should say, at 50, you get the 10 and the 50, and at 100, you get the 10, 50, and 100. So you get all three items if you donate $100 or more to our Extra Life. If you want more info, you can go to extra-life.org/team/roundabout. We keep that as up to date as we can with information of timing and what's going on and why we're doing this. Feel free to go there, check it out. That's also where you can go to donate. So keep it bookmarked. You're going to want to donate during the stream because we have some really fun stuff that happens if you do. But yeah, it's going to be great. November 21st, 7 p.m. is when we go live. So about 11 days from now, we'll be going live for 24 hours. Be expecting a game list to get published. We like to play with you for certain games. You know, GTA Online Racing, we like to do that. Golf with Friends, Fibbage, or Jackbox games in general. We'll do Fibbage, we'll do Quiplash. We might even bring back Trivia Murder Party. Although I personally prefer Fibbage over Trivia Murder Party myself. I think we get a lot of really funny answers out of that. But yeah, we've got a lot of great stuff on the books. So like I said, be looking for a game list. We'll put one out soon of the games you should have ready to play with us. I'll even try to mark what is crossplay and what is not. We are predominantly playing on Xboxes because that's what we have around here. But anything that's crossplay, we will certainly try to open up and let anybody play with us. So be on the lookout. That's coming soon. Again, 11 days from the time this podcast comes out is when we'll be going live. So
Did you say where people can watch us?
you'll be able to watch us on our Twitch, twitch.tv/roundaboutpro. And on our YouTube, youtube.com/@RA_pro gaming.
And if people wanted to check on updates about that, where would they find that?
So on social media, someday I'm going to unify our branding across all social media, but today is not that day. On Twitter or X, you can find us at @RA_pro gaming. On Instagram, we are roundabout_pro. Facebook, we're Roundabout Gaming. And we're on Blue Sky and Threads. Just look for Roundabout Gaming because I don't
Awesome.
remember the specific handles for this.
Well, all right. Brittle,
Yes.
final thoughts?
Good episode, everybody.
Boy, he
Nailed it.
really had to dig deep for that one.
That
He
was-
had
yeah,
that
that was
was
really
in
good.
his soul.
I
We'll see y'all
apologize.
next time.
Goodbye.
Like, subscribe, help us out. 5 stars. We love y'all.